This is Lisa from MobileTechreview, and this is what I've been waiting for forever. Wacom makes professional, i.e. Wacom Cintiq Pro 16, Pro 24, you get the idea, pen displays for professional artists, and the prices are what you would expect for professional equipment that often game studios, art houses, whatever they are going to be buying for their employees. But everyday hobbyists, even use serious cartoonists who are doing web cartoons and all that stuff, your budget's not so big, you couldn't afford one of those. So the only alternative were the variety of actually reasonably decent Chinese clones out there. Huion, XP-Pen, I've reviewed several of those. They all have their gotchas, including this drivers that are sometimes meh, incompatibilities with NVIDIA graphics sometimes, either contrast that's not good, you know, there are all sorts of little things you have to work around, and a good amount of parallax, which means the pen tip is offset from what you actually see that you're inking on screen. So the golden standard has always been Wacom, and the problem was just the price, right? So this is the Wacom Cintiq, not Pro, just the Wacom Cintiq 16-inch size, which is really 15.6 inches. And it is pretty much just like the Cintiq Pro, minus some features, and we're going to talk about that. But the core thing, the most important thing when it comes to one of these things is the quality of the inking and the quality of the pen. And it has the same Pro pen too that you'd get if you bought one of their professional line products with 8,192 pressure levels, tilt support, the usual Wacom EMR. It's a wonderful experience. We're going to look at it now. So being a 16-inch size, it's fairly light and easy to put anywhere. It does not come with a stand that is, you know, the full up and down kind of stand. That's still sold separately for $80. You know, that could be cheaper. Some, like Huion, include that. XP-Pen actually doesn't. But you do get the same thing that you do on the Cintiq Pro line, which is the pop-out feet, which gives you 19 degrees of lift, which if you're using one of the bigger displays, like a 22-inch or a 24, you probably want more. But if you're using something that's about this size, I find it's pretty comfortable, because I do tend to kind of like hunch over the screen when I'm drawing and painting, and that is like the way I like to work. But with something this relatively small and light, this is something you can prop up on your studio table, on your lap, whatever it is, so you don't necessarily need the stand. I leave that up to you. The build quality on this is decent. It's solid. It's your usual matte black plastic kind of product. Yeah. So the screen on this is full HD, 1920 by 1080. It's an IPS display. This is not an etched glass display. For this price, you're not going to get etched glass that's good enough quality. And I think Wacom wanted to make sure that you didn't get something that made the display totally murky. So what this has is a screen overlay. You probably could, if you really wanted to, peel it off, but I do prefer having matte. It is also non-touch. There's no touch option for this one. I'm okay with that. Really what I care most about is drawing touches, icing on the cake. They usually pay extra for with the Cintiq Pro, but hey. It has what they call their 3-in-1 cable design. That is, one cable goes into the back of it, and it comes out with a 3-pigtail connector. One is a USB-A, the other is HDMI, and then the last one is for the included power adapter. It's a pretty good length of cable, so I don't think it's going to be a problem for anybody in terms of that. If you have a Mac with only USB-C, you're going to have to get a USB-C to HDMI adapter or hub or whatever if you don't have it. If you only have DisplayPort, you'll get a DisplayPort to HDMI adapter. You get the idea. Unlike the Cintiq Pros, some of the larger ones, there's no fan inside, so this one is silent. It has some vents along the top. It doesn't need it so much. It's not doing as much. It's only full HD. It's not 4K. It doesn't have the hub built in with USB ports and audio out and all that sort of thing. The Express Key remote that we know and love from other Wacom products is compatible with this if you wish to use it. The Pro Pen 2 is the same Pro Pen 2 you'll get if you buy a Cintiq Pro. 2 buttons, eraser on the top. It's also compatible with the Pro Pen 3D and backward compatible with some of the older pens that some folks still love, like the Airbrush pen and all that, though you might not get the full 8,192 levels of pressure sensitivity with some of the old pens, but they will work. So what's the difference between this and the Wacom Cintiq Pro 16 that we reviewed? Well, the Cintiq Pro 16 is $1,500. It does have a touchscreen. It has 4K resolution and it's a wide gamut display. But they claim 94% of Adobe RGB, whereas this one's measured at 76% Adobe RGB, which is pretty standard for, say, a high-end laptop display these days. But if you need super wide gamut, you know who you are. You probably are looking at Pro products. The Pro model has a USB-C connector, which is kind of neat and tidy for the newer laptops on the market, or desktops even that have USB-C if you just want a single cable connection from your Cintiq to your PC or Mac. The Cintiq Pros have etched glass. Again, this has the matte screen protector. You can see the rest of the things on screen, so you get an idea about why there is a price difference. Now, when it comes to pricing versus the competitors, the Huion GT 15.6-inch HD model, the V2, is $579, so not that different in price, but it does come with a stand. Not the world's most fancy and sturdy stand, but it does come with a stand. The XP-Pen Artist Pro 16 is $459, so it's a little bit less than the Huion and more significantly cheaper than the Wacom, whereas the Huion is close enough in price. Both come with a stand, unlike the Wacom, which just has the flip-out legs. But again, the pen, the display quality, and all that stuff factor in favor of the Wacom, making the price fair. For me, for the display quality, for the drivers, for the excellent pen experience, which we'll talk a little bit about more, I think it is worth it if you can afford it to go with the new Cintiq 16. This does have a standard VESA mount on the back, so if you want to roll your own when it comes to a stand, use an Ergotron arm or something like that, you can do that. In terms of display quality, you can see the metrics on screen. We measure this at maximum brightness, so the black levels will be a bit better if you drop the brightness down on it. It's not super bright, though. I'm sure they probably would claim it's about 300 nits. You can see we got not quite 300 nits of it. It's fine for indoor use. Yeah, don't use it in direct sunlight, obviously. I would say that the anti-glare film, though it looks pretty good, it doesn't look grainy or icky, is probably reducing the apparent contrast on this, certainly. But like I said, I prefer matte over glossy, so I'm not going to peel it off. I would rather have matte and live with the fact that the contrast is okay, but not class-leading, which in this price space is pretty much the story. The color gamut on this is good. The color accuracy is fairly good out of the box as well. You can play with things like the color temperature and the contrast settings, so you can increase the contrast if you want to the point where you might see some picture distortion, but you can tweak it and adjust it in a fairly easy way using software. Unlike other Cintiqs that have buttons and controls, this one only has a power button, so everything you're going to do is going to be done through the Wacom Control Center and software. In terms of the pen experience, which is really the most important thing here, it's a lot like using a Cintiq Pro. It's pretty much identical. And the nice thing is once you get used to using the software, if you ever do move up to the Pro products, you'll have consistency of experience. But beyond that, the only thing I would say is it seems like I have to press a little bit harder, a little bit higher initial activation force on this, though you can adjust the pressure curves using the Wacom Control Center and software to make it a little bit more of a light touch product, which is what I did. The lack of parallax here, despite the fact that this does not look like bonded glass, I can see an air gap in there, the parallax on this is just about non-existent, which means where you think you're drawing, where you have the pen on the glass, is actually where you're drawing. So no compensating for the fact that your lines are always off by a little bit, which is really just wonderful. The tilt on this, excellent, every bit as it would be on a Cintiq Pro. So again, the features that you really care about when you're buying a pen display, the quality of lines that you can make, no fish hooks, good diagonal lines, nice tilt support, all of this is class leading and as good as it's going to get on a pen display these days. So that's the Wacom Cintiq 16, and I'm so happy that they made this, and probably you are too, especially if you've been thinking about an XP-Pen, a Huion, one of those many brands out there, you've tried one and you weren't so super happy with it for whatever reason. This has all the core features that you really care about, the excellent pen performance, the tilt, the many levels of pressure sensitivity. As drivers go for pen displays, we all have problems with all of them sometimes, but these are pretty good and very full-featured per application of settings, for example, is kind of key because I use different shortcuts in Photoshop versus Painter 2019 that's showing on screen right here. A good full HD display. Obviously, you're not going to get 4K and those other bells and whistles there, but it's a good enough display with almost full sRGB coverage, so it's a fantastic starting point for $649. I'm Lisa from MobileTechreview. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, including tech for artists, and thumbs up if you like this vid.